How's it going today, guys? So what we are talking about today is unsettled funds. Now, this was a question, this is a great question, by the way. I'm really happy that you guys suggested this. One of the people who watched one of my previous stock market videos said, if you don't mind, could you do a video on unsettled funds? And I was like, that's a great idea because, like I said, guys, I've been involved in trading for a number of years now. So some of this stuff, another example of this was simply how to open a trading account, and that's actually one of my best performing videos right now. These are things I would have never thought of because I did them so long ago I wouldn't even remember them, or they seem like it's just for such a complete beginner. I forget that these are questions that I had when I got started too. So if you guys have any questions like this, please drop them in the comments, send me a message on Twitter or on Facebook, so that way I can answer these questions for you guys, because these are great questions. But unsettled funds, what's the deal with these? Not gonna lie to you guys, they sound a little scary, okay? This might make some of you think I'm not even gonna bother trading. When you start talking about the Securities and Exchange Commission and taking a free ride, it sounds really scary, but I'm gonna explain this to you guys, and it's very, very simple to follow these rules, okay? Now, I actually violated these rules in one of my first trades, and I'm going to explain that to you guys once we get into this here. And no, I didn't end up getting handcuffed and dragged out of my home, but I did get a nasty phone call from my broker. So I want to explain this all to you guys so you can avoid having that happen to you. But according to Regulation T of the Securities and Exchange Act of 1934, all transactions in a cash account must be paid for in full, and all transactions are subject to settlement rules. So securities purchased with settled funds can be sold at any time, but securities purchased with unsettled funds must be held until the settlement date is reached for the funds used. So the settlement date is different for stock trades versus option trades. If you're trading a stock, let's say you buy a security, okay, and then you sell it on a Monday, okay, the money goes into your broker account there at that point. But there's 3 business days until the funds are settled, okay? So if you sold on a Monday, on Thursday, that would be your settlement date for those funds, and you would be able to either withdraw those funds or trade again with those funds. Now, basically what they're doing here is when you're purchasing securities with unsettled funds, it is on a good faith agreement. It's on the agreement that you understand the rules of unsettled funds and you're not going to sell them before the settlement date. So what they allow you to do is if you sold on a Monday, okay, and those funds won't settle until Thursday, you can buy a new position on Monday, but you cannot sell until the settlement date for those funds that you used to buy that position, if that makes sense. So let's say, for example, you sold on the Monday, okay? Your funds will not be settled until Thursday, okay? You buy a new position on Monday and sell it on Tuesday, and you use those unsettled funds, you just violated the SEC rules and did what's called, you took a free ride. So let me explain a free ride to you. A free ride is basically a benefit obtained at another's expense or without the usual cost or effort. So doing this, selling a stock that we bought or a position that you bought with unsettled funds, is a violation of SEC rules, and it is a free ride. What happens? Like I said, they're not going to show up at your house and put you in handcuffs, as far as I know. I've never heard of that ever happening. Depending on your broker, there are different things that happen. I know some people who took a free ride by accident, and they ended up getting online trades suspended for 90 days. So they had to call in their trades for 90 days. That way, the person actually initiating the trade would tell them, okay, you can't sell this yet. For me, it was just a phone call from my broker. I got a phone call. They basically said, hey, you sold this with unsettled funds. Do you understand the rules of unsettled funds? And I said, I have no idea what you're talking about. Please explain this to me, though, because I don't want to get phone calls like this. And he basically explained it. And I poured out my heart with this apology. I'm like, I'm so sorry, I had no idea. He was like, it's okay, let this be your warning, but the penalties escalate if this happens again. So know about this beforehand, guys. Don't get that nasty phone call or get a 90-day suspension on your trading account. It's just not worth it. It's very easy to keep track of this and understand the settlement date for funds. Just make sure that before you sell that position, you are your funds have settled, okay? And here's the reasoning behind this, guys. A customer who sells securities prior to paying for them in a cash account has received an extension of credit, okay? And a credit transaction must be executed in what's called a margin account. You cannot execute a credit transaction in a cash account. That's a violation of the SEC rules. It's different if you have a margin account, and I'll just explain margin accounts briefly to you. A margin account is generally for a more advanced trader. I don't use margin accounts. They are very dangerous in my opinion because you can end up losing all your money and owing a lot of money to somebody else, and here's why. They basically will match you dollar for dollar whatever you put in. So if you put in $10,000, it'll extend you a line of credit of $10,000, so your buying power is really $20,000. So you can buy $20,000 worth of the stock and just pay interest on that extension of credit there. So that's an example of where you can buy and sell having used a line of credit, but you cannot do that in the cash account. So that's pretty much the basics, guys. That is unsettled funds in a nutshell. I hope I did a good job explaining that. If you guys have any questions, just drop them in the comments and I will make sure that I answer those for you. But the other thing I wanted to mention, if you guys have any interest at all in my own personal stock market trading strategy, I just wrapped up my ebook and I will link up to it in the description. But it basically explains how I go about doing my analysis of stocks and how I consistently make a couple $100 a week trading a couple of hours each week. So it's a pretty good little income source for me, and it's kind of a fun hobby on the side. So if you guys are interested in that, there's a link in the description, or it should be popping up somewhere here in the video. But that's pretty much all I got for Unsettled Funds. If you guys enjoyed this, please drop a like and then subscribe for notifications of future uploads. And I thank you guys for watching.